Armored Core Law, the Allegorical Manipulation System. The system that makes an X work, which wires a lynx nerve system to the next, making them one of the same. This is the Allegorical Manipulation System. History. The birth of the Allegorical Manipulation System came from the mind of Professor Jarnefeld, a Nex researcher whose Nex research kept the colony of Anatolia independent until his passing, where the colony changed to offering out a mercenary for hire. There is speculation that Professor Jarnefeld, possibly while working for Aspina, created this system, since a lot of the Anatolia researchers who worked for the professor went to Aspina after his death. However, with no concrete evidence of the exact location of the system's birth, what is known is that this new system would soon be shortened to AMS, for documentation purposes and for general use when talking to corporation representatives. The basic understanding of how the system works is that the pilot nerves are wired or linked to the next electronics, allowing for lightning-fast reaction time and perfect manipulation of the next parts. It's better to think of this as the next becoming the body of a lynx, which reacts to the electronic signals that pass through these nerves. However, since AMS alone cannot read these signals, instead they are fed into the integrated regulation system. Located in the head of a next, it acts as a translator which fills in and translates the electronic signals from a lynx into data and feeds them out to the parts of the next to perform the requested action. It is also able to feed the lynx the view from the next head camera and other sensors, allowing for a better understanding of the battlefield. The problem faced by many who look into this system is the fact that it was not all that well recorded by lynx or researchers. Another point of conflict arises from Ultra, who also built a system known the Articulator Complexity System. To explain, an articulator is a machine part that initiates movements by receiving feedback from a control signal. Once it has power, the articulator creates specific motions depending on the purpose of the machine. The issue here is since Ultra claimed to be the originator of the Articulator Complex System, however due to poor data management they lost the advantage in the field, and now it is looked among other corporations as a comparatively easy surpassed engineering hurdle. It's with this that there's speculation that this poor data management could have been used to develop the Allegorical Manipulation System and the Integrated Regulation System, which surpassed this original system. Of course, there is no evidence of this data being used in such a way, yet the AMS and ACS are too alike with their functions, causing speculation to rise and the finger to be pointed that the Allegorical Manipulation System is in fact an upgrade to the Articulator Complexity System, giving lynx even more control over their machines of war. Still, putting that aside for a moment, the creation of AMS would then have it used in all nexts, putting a new restriction on who could become a lynx, as they would have to be compatible, resulting in AMS testing. There is no details about how these tests went. However, one can say that the fastest way was to put a test subject into a next and see the results. However, there was also the colony of Aspina, the first to use this new technology, which acted as a research institute who had test subjects such as Joshua O'Brien. This suggests that AMS testing could be done in other ways, through monitoring or small-scale tests, such as moving a next arm or head. This said, AMS was not without its faults, as being wired or linked to a pilot's nervous system. Should said pilot compatibility be low with the AMS system, they would often be put under a great deal of stress, resulting in the pilot over time becoming insane or even killing them. The best example one can give here is to think of a lynx experiencing information overload on the extreme side. The lynx nervous system is constantly receiving images and information from the integrated regulation system, which then they must react to using the electronic waves from their nerve system into the AMS, which translates them into data to be then sent off to the part to make it move. The issue is since the system is designed with no processing time needed between each action, information is being fed to a lynx without a break. As such, they can overload their brain, resulting in insanity or death. In fact, we can see this in the creation of the prototype Next 002B, which Fiona Jarnefeld will say,
"The prototype Next. An evil machine that kills its pilot with psychic stress beyond human tolerances, while lethally contaminating the surrounding environment. It's beyond man's control."
The prototype Next did not limit the information being fed to their lynx, as such killed them outright. This is what led to the need for AMS compatibility, to ensure lynx could process all this. However, as history has shown us, some corporations did not care who they put into a brain-breaking system, as long as they got results. Of course, there is always more to explore, as pilots with high compatibility, like Anatolia's Mercenary, Strayed, and other high-ranking lynx could use the AMS with little to no side effects. Lastly, there are exceptions that do exist, such as Amazik, who was known to maintain a high degree of control over his next despite his low compatibility. This, however, resulted in enormous amounts of psychological stress and also an increase in Kojima contamination in the environment around him, forcing him to fight alone. We also know corporations like Global Armaments could see AMS restrict their next force from growing. As such, they were to produce next that low AMS pilots could use effectively and get results. This line of low AMS required next would become known as the Sunshine GAN 01 Sunshine E, which removes the arms of a next and replaces them with bazooka arms, effectively removing inputs required, such as move arm and use finger to pull trigger. What is also recorded is that lynx with low AMS capability would compromise for this by using high armor point parts and high ammunition count weaponry, effectively giving them more armor to take hits while they process the commands and more ammo to fire off to do damage. While we do know this, what still escapes research is how the lynx were linked or wired into the AMS system. There have been many suggestions to how this is done, from the cruel idea of plugging a pilot into the system, which may reflect on the old Human Plus system seen in old generations, where a Raven underwent surgery to receive Human Plus. Other ideas of a lynx being dressed in a pilot suit that reads the electronic waves from the nerve system and transmutes them to the next AMS, it certainly makes one wonder about what a pilot may have had to go through to be able to pilot one, and why a lot of them went down with their craft rather than escaping. To add to this, there is also speculation that this system helped a lynx survive the high amount of G-force they face using next quick boosts. From what we know, the average person without any training can cope with around 4 to 5 G-force. However, with training such as weightlifting, this can increase to around 8 to 9 G-force, with a special suit designed to aid with this. In truth, to combat the G-force a lynx would experience while piloting an X, this system would have to make a lynx not experience the G-force at all to allow them to battle for as long as they do with quick boosting. That said, there is also one big question that has stumbled researchers, and that is White Glint's recovery when the League came for him at Linearch. Some will put this down as a fake story, one dreamt up by Linearch supporters to make their hero sound more heroic, while others may put this down to the AMS feeling the pilot's will. Is it possible that this system rebooted a damaged next to fight again? Perhaps, but then again, this little piece of history may never have an answer. In the end, this is all we know about the Allegorical Manipulation system, a system which brought the corporations the world and caused a change of warfare. It also cost the lives of countless lynx who felt the system, mental breakdowns of many more, and made certain people more special than others. This ends the report on the Allegorical Manipulation system.
Silent Avalanche is a relic. You should have let me handle it from the beginning.
Yeah,